think we've gone live. Good afternoon. My name, for those of you who are returning judges, welcome back. Thank you for being here. For those of you who are new and we haven't met yet, I'm Jeff Hawks. I'm the state coordinator for National History Day in Pennsylvania, and I do appreciate you being here. We're going to hold off just a few more minutes and give some folks an opportunity to straggle in if they're having some trouble with the system. So stand by and we'll get started here in a minute. Okay. So good afternoon to the folks who just came in. I'm very glad to have you all here with me today. For the returning judges, welcome. Good to see you again. And for the new judges who we haven't met in person yet, I'm Jeff Hawks. I'm the state coordinator for National History Day in Pennsylvania. And it's a very unusual year for us here in Pennsylvania, pretty much everywhere. So we're going to go through what is more or less a standard judges briefing, but there are going to be some changes in the format because of what we've had to do a virtual contest. So when we're done with that, I'm also going to walk you through the process of logging into ZFairs and getting access to your entries. So I will go ahead and just share this with you. So we'll do the orientation, the overview, the ZFairs orientation. If you have any trouble logging in, you need to confirm your ZFairs username or password, please email my new assistant, Ashley. Her email address is edassist@armyheritage.org. You should have already received several emails from her. If you have other questions, how to get ZFairs to work, what the judging process is, what the judging criteria are, or if you have any problems with your entries, please email me at eddirector@armyheritage.org. And I will be keeping tabs on my emails even into the evenings. So if you have problems, please let me know, and I'll do my best to help you out. A phrase that we're hearing a lot these days is an old term. It's that we're building the aircraft in flight. And this is new for all of us. And so we do expect that there will be a few bumps in the road, but with a little bit of patience and a little bit of care, we'll get through it. So far, the ZFair system has proven to be very robust. It's worked very smoothly, and we have a number of judges who are experienced with it. So hopefully we'll get through this without too many problems, but certainly don't hesitate to reach out to me if we're having any issues with it. The good news is that we're getting the last of the students registered this week. We did have some projects. We had some judging that wasn't completed at the regional level until today. So, but we do have the schedule largely complete. And so we expect to be able to give you plenty of time to go ahead and take a look at your entries. And that will be one nice thing about the virtual contest is the amount of time that you will have to look at your projects. So please, I will be sending out emails letting you know when you can go ahead and start looking at your projects. So please wait for those, but once you do get that, you may go ahead and get started. I do want to thank you for supporting National History Day. The judges are the critical element of the program. You're the primary interface that the students have with the program. You're where the rubber meets the road, and your job is so important because you get to determine whether we do this right or not. All the hard work the teachers have done, all the back end work that goes into organizing it, what's really critical is the students and the experience they have with you as judges. And as much as I really, it's a shame this year that we don't get to meet face to face, that we don't get to be in the room with the students. But I can tell you this, the students I have been in touch with, the teachers I have been in touch with, everybody is thrilled. Everybody is so enthused that History Day is going forward. If you look at the other academic programs, Science Fair has canceled, Spelling Bee has canceled, Odyssey of the Mind has canceled, and History Day very early on when it became apparent that we were going to have problems with this program, we determined that we were not going to cancel, that we were going to go virtual and that we were going to move forward and give students their experience. And the good news is that the drop off in registration has really been absolutely minimal. I'm waiting to see how many more we pick up from these last stragglers who just finished their regional contest, but I believe we're going to be at nearly normal levels of registration. So it's really spectacular. And the response from the judges has been great. So I'm really glad that you're all with us here and willing to help out. So to review, it's review for the veteran judges and an introduction for the new judges. There are 5 categories, and I'm going to go into each of these specific categories as we get later on and explain to you what changes we've had to make for the virtual contest format. But there's papers, websites, performances, documentaries, and exhibits. They can be individual or group except paper. And the groups are usually our students, groups of 2 to 5 students. The junior division is the 6th through 8th graders, and the senior division is the high schoolers. You are going to be working on a judging team of 3, and I'm happy to report that we are not only at full capacity, we have some small number of folks on standby. So really, as I said, the response from judges have been overwhelming this year. And one of the benefits of the virtual contest is it's easier when you don't have to travel. Every judging team has a captain, and the captain's role is to keep the process moving forward, to help ensure that the other judges are getting done what they need to get done, and also conveying any concerns they have, any problems they have to me. So that if you do run into problems and your captain can't help you out, please, the captain can reach out to me and I can try and get it done. And your team's goal is to achieve consensus. Now, we use consensus judging in History Day because it's not a point system. We do break down the different aspects of judging and say this part should count this percent and this part should count that percent, but that's a guideline. The purpose is to give you an idea of what we want you to focus on. History Day is not a matter of tallying up the points. What happens when the judges get together after having viewed the projects and taken a look and formulated their opinions is the judges come together and have a conversation and decide, okay, which of these is truly the best. And so you come to the deliberations with an open mind, ready to accept changes if that seems to be necessary. Very often it's clear what the top entries are. Sometimes it's not so clear. And so then you have a conversation about it. What did you like? What did you not like? Why do you think it should advance? Why don't you think this one should advance? And eventually you'll work your way around to a consensus. I have judged for many years at the national level, and I think the experienced judges will agree with me that usually number 1 and number 2 are not hard to choose. It's number 3 and number 4, because that makes the difference between placing and not placing. And so sometimes the hardest decision is which entry to put into 4th place, because you're moving a student down out of receiving a medal. So you know that the national contest will be accepting the 1st and 2nd place entries from our contest. The 3rd place entries will be serving as alternates in case one of the others can't go. Your mission. We want to foster a love of history. We want these kids to understand the process of history and come to love it, and to come to love learning and exploration and looking for evidence and critically evaluating that evidence and making their own decisions. I always say to people who've never done History Day before that they should think of it as the lab component of history class. History is the only topic which is traditionally taught without involving students in the process of the discipline. You go to math class, you do math. You go to chemistry or biology, you're conducting experiments, you're dissecting animals. You're involved in the process of discovery, or at least learning how the process works. In history, traditionally, you just sit in a room, somebody gives you a book and says, those are the answers, read them, learn them, and there'll be a test at the end of the week. We want students to get engaged in the process of understanding how that information gets into the book in the first place. Where does that information come from? It comes from primary sources. It comes from participating in a historical dialogue through secondary sources, and learning how to evaluate evidence and reach your own conclusions. So we want the students to learn to love that. Now, normally I say that positive interactions during the judging interview are critical for that. Unfortunately, this year, we're not going to be able to have judging interviews. It's just too problematic to try and set up online interviews for hundreds of students and hundreds of judges. The technical challenge is just not something that we feel we can take on and offer students an actual an even playing field. Something would go wrong, somebody would lose out, and it just wouldn't be fair to all concerned. So what we are asking this year, since you're just going to be looking at the projects themselves, we're asking that you provide lots and lots and lots of feedback. And the good news is because the evaluation forms are online, they're easy to fill out. But that constructive feedback is going to take the place of that interview. It's going to take the place of the face-to-face interactions with the students that's so valuable to them. So I really do encourage you to take some extra time to say those nice things that you would normally convey either through your words or your body language or your smiles. All these things that the students would usually get out of the project, out of the program, that they're not going to get this year. So please, when it comes time to filling out those forms, go the extra mile and spend an extra few minutes giving these students the encouragement. Respect for every student. You'll notice I crossed out turn off cell phones. That won't be a problem this year. But keep in mind, these students this year are working against a level of adversity that their peers typically don't experience. So this is all new for them. They're under a tremendous amount of strain. They're under a tremendous amount of stress. And they don't even have the benefit of our years of experience. To them, to some of them, the world is ending. We also need to remember that some of these students are in much more difficult circumstances than others. We've had students who were shut down 2 weeks before the rest of the state. We've had students who were able to have an in-person contest for the regional contest, but then students who were not and who only had a virtual contest for regionals. And we've had students who don't have internet access at their homes, who haven't seen or spoken to their teachers, but are persevering anyway. So please keep all of this in mind. Our students are struggling against difficult circumstances, and some of them have much more much more to overcome than others. Just a note, I do see on my screen over here that I do have some questions coming up. I will get to those questions a little bit later when we get into some of the nitty-gritty about Z-Fairs. But if you have questions, go ahead and type them in the questions box. So, okay, moving on. The annual theme. The students are given this annual theme, and they are expected to choose a topic that relates to that annual theme. Now, typically, this is a very broad theme. So, breaking barriers in history, the students have done a tremendous amount of research, and they've come up with some really unusual topics. We have some who are talking about, who have done projects about breaking physical barriers, about breaking technological barriers, social barriers, scientific barriers. So there's a lot of diversity. So the student has a choice, and they can do local, national, or world history. They can do ancient history. So keep that in mind, and please keep the topics in mind when you're evaluating their program, their projects. You will have students who maybe have done something that is ancient history, or maybe a international history. So as you're evaluating those, please keep in mind, looking at the bibliographies and the research, keep in mind that these are high school and middle school students. Sometimes you will forget that because the quality of work is good enough to make you forget it. But keep in mind their choice of topic and what that means in terms of what resources they will have available to them. Somebody who's done the Peloponnesian Wars is not going to have a large number of primary sources available to them. Somebody who has done a topic in a foreign country such as China or India is not necessarily going to have a lot of access to sources because there's limited sources available in English. So do keep that in mind, that the students are working with what they've got to work with. But what we're really looking for is the historical perspective, and that's where the theme comes in. We're looking for students who have taken the time to answer the question, so what? Why would a historian be interested in this topic if they have no particular interest in what it's about? What is the lesson of history? What's different in the world because of these people, these events, these discoveries, what have you? So the students, we're looking to have the students explain the topic's relationship to the theme and its significance in history. And this is really what I say to students is, this is where you get the difference between a History Day project and a book report. A History Day project is about uncovering historical significance. It's not about reading a bunch of books and writing up a report about what those books say. So we really want the students digging into that theme and digging into that historical perspective. So how do we evaluate entries? There are 3 major criteria areas for that, and they are the number one. Well, okay, let me just get these all out here. Number 1 is historical quality. Is their project accurate? Have they done thorough research, looked at appropriate primary sources? Again, the primary sources are appropriate to the topic. Somebody who's done the Trojan War is not going to have a whole bunch of primary sources. Have they looked at the ones that they should look at? Is their presentation balanced? Have they looked at the naysayers? Have they given the naysayers an opportunity to be heard? Have they addressed the potential objections to their evidence or their interpretations of the evidence? Are they showing thoughtful analysis and interpretation? Now, this is going to be really important this year. And the reason it's going to be so important is because the formats of these projects, and we'll discuss those when we get into the individual categories, but the formats of the projects have, in some cases, suffered quite a bit because of the requirements of the virtual contest. So we really want you to look at that historical quality. We want you to look at that thoughtful analysis and interpretation and see what you can see there. Because in a lot of cases, the declarative presentation is not going to be there. The relationship to the theme needs to be there. Have they explained it? Have they talked about the significance? Have they gotten into why this topic is important and why somebody should care? And you'll see it. You will see projects where the students don't make that leap, where they just get into history and they say, wow, this is the neatest thing I've ever seen. Let me tell you all about it. And then they do a happy little brain dump into their project and it's all about how excited they are about their topic. And that's fantastic. We don't want to put that down because that's a sign of enthusiasm. And I say it at every one of my judges' briefings, and I'll say it again. We don't want to step on the students' enthusiasm. We want them to come away from this thinking that you enjoyed their project, that you liked their project, and well, you're not meeting them in face to face, but if you were, we want them thinking that you liked them. The reason is twofold. The first is we want them to come back to History Day. If they come back, we can fix the problems with their projects. They will learn, they will adapt, they will look at other projects, they will work with their teachers, and they will learn to fix the deficiencies in their projects. They won't do it if they don't come back. And even if their teachers force them to come back, because some teachers do make it a requirement, if they're not enjoying the program, they'll just go through the motions and they won't put any energy or enthusiasm behind it. The other reason is for the students to take your advice, they have to think you like the project. And it's very similar to what I previously mentioned, but you want the students thinking that hey, they really like this, because then they'll take your advice. But many of us who we've dealt with teenagers, you know, if they think that you're just being negative, if you're just being critical, then they're going to turn it off. They're going to turn off. They won't hear a word you say. So really strive to keep that feedback positive, and really reward their enthusiasm with more enthusiasm. Show that you're as happy that you're happy that they did their projects. Even if you see a number of deficiencies in it, we can deal with that. So the final bit is the clarity of presentation. And there's a couple of issues here. I'll get into them more, but in particular, the exhibit and the performance categories have suffered the most. And though they suffered because a lot of the students got caught with their exhibits in their schools that they couldn't get back to get. I know that there's some students in some parts of the state that had less than a day's warning that their schools were going to close, that they would not have access to their projects. Some of them didn't get any warning. We also had a process of discussion about whether or not to have students submit videos of their performances, and we decided not to. And the reason is because we were concerned that the students would feel pressured to violate social distancing rules in order to get together to form their group, to film their group projects. And so instead of just saying, well, you can submit one if you have one, we said none at all. So the students have simply submitted their scripts. And I'll talk more about that when we get into the individual categories. But just so you know, this is where we're coming from. So clarity presentation has suffered this year, and so you're going to have to be a bit more of a detective to dig into the materials, to dig into their bibliographies, and to really look and say, okay, what's really here? What's really going on? Keeping in mind that these are students who were working under difficult conditions, some of whom really did not have an opportunity to give their project that final polish that they usually give them. So, all right. I think I already said most of this. You know, as long as the kids have a positive experience, we'll keep them coming back. And you know, we can give them real feedback. We can give them significant feedback. But I stress, let's keep it positive, and let's make a real effort this year to let the students know that their efforts are appreciated, and that we're glad that they're participating in History Day. A couple of things to watch out for as a judge. Lots of us have a lot of experience around history. Students don't. They don't know what's possible. They don't know what's not possible. Sometimes they've really gone outside the box and come up with something neat. And be careful and give their projects an opportunity to convince you. They might start off with something that you think is not at all historically significant. I once judged a project where the student was talking about the youth culture created by rock and roll. And at the very beginning of the project, I thought, oh, this student's never going to connect this to the theme. And by the end of the project, the student was talking about how rock and roll created a youth culture that was instrumental. It created and motivated a youth culture that was instrumental in the anti-war protests. So the student managed it in the end, even though I was skeptical at the beginning. So it's really important to keep an open mind and to follow those to follow the student's logic. They will use oral sources, and that's okay. They do need to be careful. They're starting to learn about corroborating evidence. They're starting to learn that they shouldn't just take one person's word for it. So keep an eye out for that. Look for those oral sources, and when you can, point them in the right direction. Sometimes a gentle question will point them in the right direction. So you use this oral source from this individual. What information could you find to confirm that? And something like that. So if you see them using these things, you can see how well they've used them and phrase your questions or your comments to guide them towards a better use of them. A lot of students will just pick their favorite topic and kind of stretch it to fit the theme. The themes are pretty broad, but give them an opportunity and give them a chance. There is a lot of students will do a local history project, so be aware if you see something that is local to your area. Just be aware that you may have a bias in favor of it. You may have a bias against it. It may be a topic that connects to you personally. So be aware of that, and feel free to discuss that openly with your fellow judges. Say, hey, this happened in my backyard. I happen to know a little bit about it, and maybe I'm not the most unbiased judge in this case. So lean on your fellow judges and let them help you through the process. Also be aware of the political bias. A lot of the themes seem to encourage students to pick political themes, and I think that's kind of par for the course in our current environment. So remember, even though you might disagree wholeheartedly with a student's conclusions, remember to take a real good look at their process, their analysis, and ask yourself whether you agree with the conclusions or not. Have they done a good job of making their case? Have they done a good historical work? One of the things that is important about History Day is we're trying to teach these kids that part of what's going on in history is that reasonable people can look at the same evidence and reach different conclusions. You'll see a lot of diversity in topics. You'll see a lot of different perspectives. So please keep in mind that we're dealing with a diverse body of students out there, and that there is a difference in the way different people see the same thing. And so if you feel that you have any issues that might be a little delicate, reach out to me and we'll figure out a way forward together. But do keep in mind that Pennsylvania is very diverse in terms of our student body. And so we're going to see all kinds of different perspectives and different kinds of points of view. When it comes to evaluating your entries, the most important thing to do is to give the students the feedback they need to understand why their project was ranked the way it was ranked. Mostly they need to know it falls into one or two categories. Why didn't we place, or why did we place? So you want to keep the comments constructive and positive. You want to keep them clear. There's not a whole lot of space, so you want to just give it to them as concisely as possible. Give them concrete suggestions for how they can improve and do a better job next time. And I love to use the phrase, your project would improve if. And so you could improve your project by and doing this. Give them those concrete suggestions with that nice phrase that just makes it constructive. And they're going to take that advice and say, okay, this is what I need to do better. Remember that you're looking at the work of young students, and so they can't take criticism necessarily the same way that you or I could take them. And I'll give you an example. Years and years ago, I saw a judge speaking with some students during the interview, and the judge was a college professor, and he said, well, I disagree with your conclusions entirely, but that's okay. That's something that we can say to colleagues. That's not necessarily something you could say to young students who are terrified. They don't understand that in the professional historical world, we disagree all the time, and still can evaluate each other's work in a fair and unbiased manner. So all the student heard was, I disagree with your conclusions, and the student's face fell, and they were completely disheartened by it, and they didn't hear the rest of it. So it was the judge did not, there was no malice. It was a perfectly innocent comment. It's just the judge had forgotten, and partly it was because this was quite an impressive young man, but the judge had forgotten he was talking to a young student who maybe didn't have the academic cultural background to absorb that kind of comment in the spirit in which it was intended. And so as you go through this process, and then the final step is to deliberate and reach a consensus. So again, we're looking for consensus. We're looking for the judges to agree and go forward from there. Okay. Still only the one question. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the rules for each category, but I want to stress that History Day is a contest with rules. It is not a contest about rules. The rules are there to allow judges to compare apples to apples, to level the playing field. And so as we get into rules compliance, you'll find out that there's basically two issues. Does a rules violation give a student an unfair advantage or not? So here we actually have, I'll have to move my picture here. Okay. Here we actually have a little chart that shows us what we do, what counts as a minor infraction, a major infraction, and disqualification, and what the judges should do in each case. So a minor infraction is, all right, there we go. A minor infraction is a violation that does not provide the students a competitive advantage. Now that's going to be something like, oh, they forgot and left their school name on the process paper. They went over the word count by 10 words. They're 2 seconds over the time limit or whatnot. So if you have a minor violation, you should note these in your comments. Typically, it does not prevent an entry from advancing unless you need to consider them to break a tie between two entries that are otherwise equal. So you're going to look for those little things. They should get fixed. Please note to the student, you were over by 2 seconds. You need to fix that if you go to the next level of competition, because at the next level of competition, the margin of error gets narrower each time you go up. A major infraction is anything that violates any of the major equalizers, time, size, words, and gives the students an advantage. More than 10 words over an inch over the sides, 5 to 10 seconds over on time. These entries should not advance. If you really, really feel strongly that an entry should advance, then please see me before going ahead and doing so. We'll talk about it, and we'll take a look at it and have a conversation. As far as disqualification goes, judges do not disqualify projects. Please do not ever put the term disqualification on any of your evaluation forms. Disqualification means removal from the contest, and the students won't even get their evaluation forms. It means a project has been removed and it is not going to be judged. There are only 3 grounds for disqualification, and it's reusing an entry from a previous year, plagiarism, or tampering with another entry. If you suspect any of these, please let me know and I will take care of it. But please be very, very careful with that. We don't want students to think they were disqualified when they haven't been. So particularly don't use the phrase disqualified in any of your evaluations. So a couple questions. Somebody said about how do you evaluate size with the exhibits. So we're going to, I'll go over that in a little bit. So, yep, and questions about the technical aspects. So we'll get into that as well. Okay. Process paper is required for performance documentary exhibit website. And it should be about how the students went about the research and creation of their entry and how the topic relates to the theme. It is not an opportunity for them to provide more evidence and analysis. So if they go off and are providing more evidence and analysis, please disregard it and make a note in their evaluation that they should not have gone off in that direction. The annotated bibliography is attached to the process paper, and the annotation should discuss how the works were used in producing the entry. Should be divided by primary and secondary sources. And again, annotated bibliography should not be an opportunity for the students to provide more evidence and more analysis. All right, I'm going to skip over this because I know that folks want to get on to some of the technical aspects. Couple common History Day myths. Exhibits and websites must have timelines. Not a myth. That's a myth. Performances must have songs, student-conducted interviews, and glitz. Those are not true. You're looking at historical quality, and none of those have to do with historical quality. Okay, let's talk about the technical aspects of each of these. What the students have done is they have created a virtual project which they have uploaded to the ZFair system. We will go over the ZFair system when we're done with this presentation, and I will walk you through the process of logging in to retrieve your projects. Now the exhibits, as you see here, is the typical size and word limits. What we have done is we have given them a virtual template. They are to create a slideshow, and they can do whatever they want as long as it conforms to the requirements of that virtual template. When we get into the ZFair system, I will show you where that virtual template is so that you can take a look at it. And so you do have to take into consideration, have they produced more slides than the template allows? Have they included links that the template maybe does not allow? So the question of how do you evaluate the size of the exhibits, it's number of slides on the template, and so you'll be able to take a look at that. Now, in some cases, the students had an exhibit board that they were able to photograph, and I've actually seen a few of them. Some of the teachers, students have been very creative about putting that information into a slideshow. So again, give them a little bit of leeway. They're working under difficult conditions, but they do need to, the format of the template is taking the place of the size restrictions for the projects this year. You might be able to tell if a board that they have is too high, but that doesn't matter. Normally the diameter of the board is the dimensions of the board is the criteria. This year it's the following the template. Now, the students who didn't have access to their board, some of them have done their best to create a board in the template. So there's going to be some variety here. And the real question is are they able to fit their material in within the space limits that we have? So I'll show you that template when we get over to the Z-Fair system. Documentaries don't change a whole lot. The students will upload their process papers and bibliographies. They've done that for all their projects except for the website and the paper. They've uploaded their process paper and bibliography, and they have included a link. Unfortunately, we can't use YouTube because of the problems with YouTube removing student projects. If the student happened to use copyrighted material, they've tried YouTube in the past at the national level, and they've had projects just disappear off of YouTube at the last minute. So we used a program called WeTransfer. The documentaries will be available to you as links that you need, but you will need to download the project. And some of them are pretty large and take a while to download. So please, you're going to need to make sure you set aside enough time to get those downloaded and to view them. The students were supposed to upload them as MP4s, and they were supposed to upload them through the WeTransfer website. Some of the students have instead posted them as Google Documents or as YouTube videos. If those work for you, that's fine. If they don't work for you, or if any of the links don't work for you, please contact us as soon as possible, and we'll try to get a link that does work for you. Our bias here this year is to get those projects for you to view, no matter what we have to do. So we will be trying very hard to fix any links that aren't working in documentaries or any other categories. So again, you'll have an opportunity to go ahead and view those videos. Viewing of the project is going to be asynchronous. You're going to be able to do it in your own time. And what you will do then is you will have you'll bring your heads together with your fellow judges, and we'll talk about how to do that in a little bit. And you'll confer with your fellow judges. You'll fill out your evaluation forms online, and once you have your ranking set, your judge captain will submit them. So again, we're hoping to get these projects out to you sometime this week so that you can start as early as possible, so that you have as much time and flexibility as possible to get it done. Performances. The performances have suffered quite a bit. As I mentioned before, we did not feel it prudent to ask students to submit videos because some of them would have to violate social distancing rules to create those videos. We didn't want them pressured to do that, and we wanted to have a level playing field, so we said scripts only. We had to implement this rather quickly. Registration was already open at the time. There is no required format for scripts. So you're probably going to see a tremendous amount of variety. Some of them are going to be many pages long. Some of them are going to be short. Some of them are going to have nothing but dialogue. Others are going to have dialogue and stage directions and probably descriptions of props and costumes as well. Again, it's important to, all that is nice, but again, it's important to look at the historical content and the historical quality of the project. So that's going to be what that's going to be in terms of the format. Hopefully the students there won't be too much variation, but you should be prepared for there to be quite a bit. Papers and websites are pretty much the way they always are. You'll go into Z-Fairs and you'll be able to pull up the paper or pull up the website, and those should change very, very little this year. Okay. A little bit of advice about filling out your evaluation form. We'll go through these really quickly because I do want to move on to the Z-Fair system as soon as we can. But there's a copy of this briefing is available on the Z-Fairs website. I'll show you where that is. So you can come back and take time to take a look at this. This was the national organization got together and said, you know, what do we want what would a not so great evaluation form look like? And so what you have here is you have everything is checked off in the superior column. That's going to be a problem if the entry doesn't win, because the student's going to look at it and says, everything is superior. How come I didn't win? This has a ranking written right on it. We don't want that going out to students, especially because it's entirely possible that you wrote it there. Then the project, then during your judge's deliberation, it was not selected as the number one, and it just got left there. And now that the student is concerned. These are nice comments. They make the students feel good, but they don't really provide any kind of feedback that can help the student improve. And this year, when we want lots of feedback, go ahead and make these nice comments, but also make sure that you provide comments that are that have a lot of substance. Also here, the judge has said this performance deserves a top award. We again don't want students getting hints about that kind of thing in their evaluations, because if they don't win, that's just going to be confusion for them. So I'm just going to go through these really quickly. You start seeing, here's a better example. You see some more concrete, very nice assembled documentary, interesting, a pleasure to review, strong research, especially impressive are your interviews and primary sources. You could say more about why those things were impressive. There's also some empty space here. So this is a much better example, but still you can get better. Specific criticism backed up with examples. If you can provide examples, you know, when you did this, it had this effect. You might want to consider avoiding that sort of thing. And then, of course, History Day, they like the comment sandwich, which is start with a positive comment, offer constructive comments, and then end with a positive comment. So, all right. Marginal projects. Should a marginal project advance? Well, NHD is a learning experience, and seeing high quality projects can elevate a student's expectations. So if you think that a project maybe isn't up to scratch, the students can learn a lot from moving forward. And I will tell you, if you leave a category empty, well, that's not going to happen at the state contest. But if there will be good enough projects to move on. But if you ever are in a position where you have a first place, a second place, and you're debating whether or not to award a third place, I have heard from teachers that it's just crushing to the students. When they know that there's only 4 entries in a category and all that gets awarded is first and second place, that's very demoralizing for the students. So that's something that we should be keeping in mind. Okay, let me take a look real quick here and see if there's questions that I should answer right now or if I should move on. Okay, questions about technical. Okay, we are going to move on to the technical portion. Pull up the ZFair system. Okay, so the ZFair system, you will find it at pa1.nhd.org. You go to that website, and when you get there, you'll see the tabs here. You want to click on the judge's main. It will take you to the judge's home page. You'll see this, and there's some information here about how you'll be judging. And down here are a bunch of files that will be useful to you as you go through the judging process. There's a pre-contest judging orientation. It's just a nice little thing to give new judges an idea about what's coming. This is last year's judges briefing, has much of the same content of the briefing we just went through. And this is the ZFair's online judging instructions. So this is step-by-step instructions that will walk you through the process that we're going to look at today. These 5 links are to the standard judging instructions that are usually in the judge captain's packet at the state contest. So you can review those. They have information about the rules. They have information about the judging criteria. So that may be helpful to you as you're going through the process. This is the virtual exhibit template. So judges in the exhibit category might want to take a look at this. Well, definitely will want to take a look at this. Let's see if I can open it up here. Here we go. These are the instructions that the students were given. It's a fairly bare bones thing, but they will have these slides here in which to put the information about their projects. Now some of them have taken some liberties here, so they'll show the whole right. So this says, the template says, show the top of the right panel here and the bottom of the right panel here. What some students have done is they've put in the entire right panel here and some highlights here, or maybe some explanatory notes. You can go ahead and give them that leeway. The most important thing is that they're not using more slides than what they were given allowed to use. So again, you're going to have to use some judgment, and you're going to have to use some, the student should be complying with the spirit, if not necessarily with the letter. If you have an issue where a student has really gone hog wild, or they've added a whole bunch of extra slides, please let me know. I can take a look at you and give you my opinion. At the end of this, they will have put in their annotated bibliography and process paper. So that will be here, and so you'll be able to just keep scrolling on through to take a look at the at those projects there. And the whole thing should be uploaded in a PDF format that when you click on the link, it'll appear for you, and you can save it on your own computer, or you can come back and use the link if you want to take another look at it. Okay, these are the instructions that the students were given about uploading their virtual project. If for any reason you want to look at them, I put them there so that you could see them. And then the spectator and judging policy, which in a lot of ways, there's a lot of aspects to that don't apply this year, but there is the bit in there about all judging being final. So you're welcome to take a look at that if you wish. When you are ready to begin your judging, you're going to navigate to this website, and you're going to find the login button right here. You'll click on login, and it will bring you to this page where you will type in the username and password that you should have received from Ashley. If you have not received a username and password from Ashley, you please email her, and she'll be happy to send it to you. Go ahead and, whoops. What's it doing here? All right. So when you log in, it will look like you've gone right back to the home page. The difference will be is you'll be able to see your name up in the corner here, and that will let you know that you've gone ahead and logged in. When you're ready to start looking at your projects, you'll find the judging tab here. You'll click on that and open the judging portal. As soon as you open the judging portal, this is a test group that I created for the purposes of demonstration. But as soon as you open the test group, you'll see the groups that you are a member of and the name of the group. In most cases, this will be, in your cases, this will say something like first round senior individual documentaries team 1. So that'll be the name of your group and your category, and you will see your fellow judges and their email addresses right here so that you can go ahead and reach out to your fellow judges and start your process of connecting with them. When you're ready to actually look at your projects, you'll scroll on down and you'll see the name and the links to the project, and you'll click on the View and Evaluate. When you click on View and Evaluate, your evaluation form will open up, and you'll see the paper that comes with the project, and you'll see the project link. Now, the project link is not going to work in this one. Let me go back to this one, View and Evaluate. Okay, the project link, that will be for your documentaries. Everything else will be here as a paper, unless it's a website. It'll be your documentaries or your websites. The link will be here. If it's a paper or an exhibit or a performance, it'll be right here. You'll click on the View Paper, and the paper will open up. And in this case, I just put up a picture of one of our old NHD buttons. To open up the link, if it's a WeTransfer link, which it should be, it will bring you to this page. And you'll see the NHD logo in the background, and there'll be a button here to download. You go ahead and click on download, and it will start downloading. And I recommend that you click on show in folder so that it will show you where it is once it's done downloading. And then you can move it to a place where you can keep an eye on it. Again, unfortunately, we can't use YouTube. Doesn't work very well for History Day purposes. So it will take some time to download those projects, and so make sure you give yourself plenty of time to do it. You go on through and you just click the radio buttons here to put the rankings wherever you want them. Again, historical quality, we really want you to focus on that this year. Rules compliance, if you see any issues with the rules, and then if you say no, there's an opportunity for you to fill in a blank here and explain what the problem is that the student did wrong. And then in the feedback and notes, there's a window for strengths, there's a window for areas for improvement, and then there's a place for personal notes. Anything you type in personal notes, the students will not see. And that's really more for prejudging. If you're having an in-person contest and you want to look at it ahead of time, you can take notes on it ahead of time, print those out and bring them with you to the contest. I don't imagine there'll be a whole lot of that going on this year. Once you are done, so you put in your rankings, you put in your comments, you're done. If you want to come back and work on it later, you click on save, but if you're done, you click on save and submit. All questions must be answered. I must have forgotten one. There we go. Save and submit. So it won't let you submit an incomplete form. It'll ask you if you're ready. You say yes. It's been saved and submitted. Now, it won't show as saved and submitted until you refresh this page. And then it will show that it is finished. If you want to view what you've done, you could go ahead and take a look. And if you decide that you want to change something on it after you've already done it, then all you need to do is email me. I cannot open it back up for you. I can only delete it, which will give you another form to work on. So if there's anything, if you do want to open it back up and work on it again, I recommend that you cut and paste anything you want to save into another file so you can cut and paste it right back in when you're ready. Once that is all done, you can also see how your judges are moving along, how your fellow judges are moving along. Once that is all done, the captain will be able to click on Submit Rankings. And the captain will have the opportunity to put those rankings in. They'll go right into the system and we'll populate. This is the first round of judging, so we'll populate the second round of judging, and we will be able to get that information out to the runoff judges so that they can get started on it too. We are asking, and it was in the email I sent you, and it's in the email I will send out again in 2 days after the second briefing tomorrow. We're going to make these available to you as soon as possible, and we are asking that you have them completed the first round by the afternoon of May 15th, which was the original date for the first round of the competition. And then we're asking the runoff judges to have their projects judged and submitted by noon on the 16th so that we can hold our online award ceremony at 2 o'clock on Saturday, May 16th. Okay, let me take a look at the questions here and see what we have. All right. Will our feedback be constrained to the space available in the traditional evaluation form? Will we have the opportunity to attach additional documentation? You don't have the opportunity to attach additional documentation, but I think you will have plenty of room in this evaluation form to just type and type and type. So I don't think that that'll be a problem. There was a question about exhibit size. I think we've taken care of that. Okay, somebody cannot see the template. Somebody asked if this will be sent in an email. Yes, this will be sent in an email. Okay, how will judges meet? Give me a second and I'll get to that. I don't character limits in the fields. In fact, there's a character requirement. I think it's 350. Yes, the captain is judge one. The question is, what is the drop dead due date for judges forms? We need the forms by 4 o'clock on May 15th. We'll send that in an email by the afternoon of May 15th. Don't hold me to that 4 o'clock, but the afternoon by May 15th. And then we'll need the runoff judges by noon on the 16th. And the question was, can you zoom in on the pictures of the exhibit templates? You should be able to. I've been talking to the students and making sure that they're uploading sufficiently high definition photographs that you'll be able to zoom in and look at them. If they can't, they will have pulled out anything. There's some spaces for close-ups, so they'll be providing you some opportunity to look at close-ups. But yes, you should be able to zoom in on those and get a good look at them. If you do run into an exhibit that is just something you can't make out, let me know, and I'll try to reach out to the student and see if we can get something else for them to look at. Okay, so now we come to the question of how do the judges conduct their deliberation? And the answer to that is we would like you to work with your fellow judges to find a time that works for you to have a video or teleconference so that you can get together on the phone or by Zoom or what have you and have your deliberations. Unfortunately, we have some privacy policies that don't allow us to set up a one big Zoom that any one of you could get access to. But if you don't have the capacity to set up your own online meeting or conference call, we will assist you with that. So judges, captains, reach out to your teammates, find out what your capabilities are, and let me know. Zoom does have free accounts. We can help you set one up and help you make the appointment for you. So that is our job for the next two weeks, is to make sure that you have the tools you need to conduct your meeting. We're giving you the flexibility to schedule it at whatever time works for all of you, but we will give you the technical support you need to make it happen. So that has covered most of what I need to cover. So are there any other questions that anybody has? Let me take a look. Let's see. All right, somebody said they could not see the template. Was that everybody couldn't see the template? It may not have popped up on the screen when I did it for everyone, but you can go and take a look at it yourself. It's right here on the ZFair system. Okay. All right, another. Is it advisable to spend time searching students' claims and text for accuracy and plagiarism? That's an interesting question, and it's one that hadn't really occurred to me before, because the new format does give you plenty of extra time to do so. But now that I think about it, this is something that the website judges and the paper judges have done in the past. So if you really suspect plagiarism, yes, go ahead and take a look and see what you can see. We don't, if something really strikes you as questionable, you can go ahead and avail yourself of that. I want to be very careful about not using. You should be conducting your own research project here. I want to be very careful about this. It could open a tremendous can of worms. But if you see something that really strikes you as problematic, what I would suggest is that you reach out to me, and we'll figure it out together. That's a little bit outside the normal scope of how this process works. So I will encourage you, if you have any questions at any point of how you should be doing this, just go ahead and reach out to me. All right, let's see. Is there a minimum, maximum number? Okay, hold on a sec. Just scrolled away from me. Is there a minimum, maximum number of words on the performance scripts and performance process papers? The process paper is limited. It's supposed to be 500 words. But the script, no. We did not have time to create a template for the script. So again, you're going to see some variation there. Some of them are going to be long and full of stage directions and costume descriptions and whatnot. But other than that, no, there's no real limit on that. So, when will contact info for our judges teams become available? You should be able to log in already, and when you go on the judges portal and pull up your judges group, your judges should be visible. Your fellow judges should be visible right there with their email addresses, and you can reach out to them. If you do reach out to your fellow judges, and don't hear back in a reasonable amount of time, please let me know, and I'll help you make contact. Have the NHD passwords been set? Yes, you should have already received your password, your username and password. If you did not, then one of a couple things may have happened. You may be on our alternate list, or you may be it may be that it went to your spam filter. So reach out to us, reach out to me, reach out to Ashley, and we'll get that information for you. When should the judge's deliberation meeting happen in the judging process? After we individually evaluate? Yes, you're going to want to take a look at the projects before you have your deliberations, but that's not to say you can't meet before you look at the project. So just to get to know each other, at the state contest, normally the judges, we get you introduced to your teammates before you go to lunch, so there's some time to get to know each other. So there's really no hard and fast rule here. Once you have your contact information for your fellow judges, go ahead and reach out and make whatever plans you want to make for how you want to proceed on this. I really envision the way you would do it is check in with your fellow judges, decide when you're going to have your deliberations, contact us if you need us to set that up for you, and then then go ahead and look at your projects and have your meeting. But whatever works within your judging group is fine with us. To prepare for viewing, will the total number of projects to be evaluated be listed? Yes. Once we have the schedule figured out and you log in, you'll see the total number of projects. Right now, the largest categories are about 15 projects. That's a little bit high for a if we were trying to get it done in one afternoon, but I think it's doable with that's in the exhibit category. So I think that's doable. If you do find that you're having trouble and that you're concerned about getting done in time, I do please encourage you to reach out to us early so that we can get you some help and help move the process along. But yes, you'll be able to look in and see where you are, how many projects. And I think the smallest category I've seen is 5 or 6. So, and then most of them are somewhere between that. So I don't think it's too onerous, any of the categories, but if you are concerned about it, please let us know. This is a new way of doing things, and we are mindful of your needs. We're mindful of your restrictions. We're mindful that everybody is in a difficult position right now. And so all I ask is if it looks like this is going to be too much for you, or that this just doesn't work with your with what's going on in your situation right now, that's okay. Just let us know about it as soon as possible so that we can make an adjustment as we need to. You know, this is a challenging time for everybody, and we're all doing the best we can. So don't hesitate to reach out for me and say, hey, Jeff, something's not working right here. I need some help with this, and I'm happy to come on board and help you with that. So, okay, we have some more time. So if we have any additional questions, I'm here. Okay, just logged into ZFairs and went to the judge portal. No names or contact info available, just a blank screen. If you get into ZFairs and there's nothing visible, send me an email. Oh. Somebody says they're keeping their fingers crossed that this works well. Yeah, you and me both. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. So far, it's been working very smoothly, and I feel pretty good about a good bunch of judges and good spirited people. And so, I guess I'll finish up by saying, work with us. We'll work with you. And we'll get through this together, and we're going to give the kids a great experience regardless of whatever else is going on. So I thank you again for your time. I thank you for your dedication to History Day. I thank you for your dedication to education and providing students with the best opportunities possible. We're going to do some great things together. Okay, couple other questions coming in. Apparently it went really well in Arkansas, so hopefully that's we're in a position to do as well as they did. And Chris wanted to know, he's already logged into Z-Fairs and the projects are already viewable. If you want to start previewing them, please do. But keep in mind, we still might have to make changes to the schedule. So it's possible that some of those projects will switch to another team. It's possible that some of them will be deleted. It's possible that some will be added. So please go ahead and take a look at them. You can start previewing them, but I wouldn't start filling out any evaluations yet. But go ahead and take as much time as you want and to look at them. Okay. Looking to see if any other questions come up. Can the judge's form be downloaded? No, it cannot. If you really want a paper form to work with, you can email me and I can try to send you a blank form, but they're going to need to be submitted online. So you know what? That's a good question. I am not 100% sure my answer to that. Let me take a look. View and print notes. View. I think you should be able to click from the view. You should be able to click and print. Yeah, you can click and print it and it'll give you this. So you can download that. You can't work on it offline, but you can print off a copy if you want one. So I hope that answers your question. All right. Any other questions? Okay. If there are no other questions, or if something comes to you later, we'll be here tomorrow doing this again. I think at 5 o'clock. And so you can come back and ask a question then, or you can just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to answer it for you. Once again, I thank you very much for coming out, and I thank you very much for your patience as we kind of stumble our way through this thing and try to do something great for students. Thank you very much. Take care.